So 3.7 has just hit the PTU for Wave 1, and with it, I've had a chance to try it out for myself so that I can report back to you guys what I've found. And my oh my, have I found some things. Hey guys, I'm Morphologist, and in this video I'm going to show you guys a bit of the stuff that I've seen already in 3.7 over this past weekend, as well as some things that aren't actually in the patch notes. Then, at the end of this video, as I teased at the beginning, I'm going to show you some exclusive footage of the new quantum interdiction ship, the RSI Mantis, which a developer was so kind to show us in this past weekend's stream. So I hope you join me. Let's get started. So this is the hammerhead from above in 3.6. This is in 3.7. 3.6, 3.7. You see the difference? It looks like they've added a new skybox in a much higher resolution. They've also changed the shaders somehow while increasing performance. I've noticed that my FPS has gone up just ever so slightly. Well, the game has not really lost any of its visual fidelity. Though this is subjective and I can let you guys decide for yourselves here in a side-by-side. I personally think that the 3.7 version of Daymar looks just ever so slightly better. They may be doing this through the shader, but they also could be doing it through improvements to the LOD system. I also noticed that the textures seem just a little bit lower quality in 3.7, and this might also be how they're able to get better performance out of this new version of Star Citizen. But I might be wrong, and so I'll leave it up to you to decide here as well with these images. All I know is that the game feels smoother and my frames definitely seem a bit more. We're also getting cave networks in 3.7, which have turned out to be pretty darn fun. They're much bigger than I expected and definitely very ambient. It's very easy to get lost in them, and so I found myself having to use chem lights, which were also added in this patch, to mark my way home. Visually speaking, they are gorgeous, and there are quite a few different kinds, some with glowworms that I haven't even seen yet. And here you can see my buddies with their lights on and how it glints off the rocks. It's just incredible and definitely keeps you immersed in this universe. Along the way, you might also want to pick up some of these harvestables. I found some of these, let's call it dung, in the cave that I sold for about 44 UEC per dung. It's not a whole lot, but it definitely adds up if you pick them up along the way as you go mining. So as I said in my best features of 3.7 video, the multi-tool is basically the mining tool with an attachment. How it works is exactly like the prospector, but if you haven't used that shit before, which probably many of you haven't, what you do is you get out your tool and you scan the rock to figure out if it's stable or not. If it's stable enough, you can start mining it and you use your mouse wheel to modulate the power output. There is a point that you want to hit though, that's the sweet spot, and that's in the green box on the left. If you go above that into the red for too long, the rock will explode and kill you and everyone around you. If you're successful, the rock will split and yield the results that you were seeking. So in this case, F4ite, I think that's how you say it, will come out of the rock and I can grab that and put it in my backpack. If you don't own a backpack, all suits in the game currently have an inventory that can store this stuff. Just be aware that suit inventories are really limited, and so you're going to want to bring that new backpack if you're going to go mining. In terms of profitability, if you find yourself being really efficient with your time and not getting lost in caves, you're going to make a pretty penny. However, if you dawdle too much, you will find yourself, well, just not making enough to make the time input make sense. So you're going to want to learn how to do the mining tool really well and how to navigate caves quickly. And it's actually a lot of fun. So if you get a chance, when you get in 3.7, I highly suggest you go pick yourself up a multi-tool as well as the multi-tool mining attachment. Speaking of attachments, let's talk about those new gun attachments. But if peaceful spelunking just isn't your thing, you've got a new assortment of weapon attachments to add to your arsenal to make yourself the perfect mercenary. We've got compensators, flash hiders, suppressors, undermounted laser sights, as well as tactical lights, and a new assortment of weapon sights that are way better than what we had before. The way that you can equip them is very much like they have been in the past. Now we have a barrel as well as underbarrel attachment in addition to the optics that we had in 3.6. The improvements to the sights come in the form of the reticules being much more clear and fine as compared to what they were before, where they would sometimes obscure targets from even very close. Compensators also add to the controllability of weapons, as you see here on this S71. We also got an assortment of new weapons, including the new frag pistol, which has 2 modes, a single shot 50 caliber mode, as well as a charge up shotgun round, which can do a lot of damage to a target. And of course, the level of detail on this pistol is what we've come to expect from CIG, absolute perfection. If the big guns are your thing though, then the reticules on the 8x scopes have also been improved to a usable state, making sniping something that you might want to try out now in Star Citizen. While weapon attachments certainly do not have anything to do with spaceships, they do add something to the game that many of us enjoy, including myself, and that's a really solid FPS experience. Speaking of FPS combat, the AI has been improved both for ships as well as for FPS combat. I found myself dying the first 2 times I tried this mission, not knowing that they would actually rush me and kill me pretty quickly if I wasn't careful. Now this is also quite dependent on server health, and I found that a fresh server was going to yield the best results, with mixed results as the server got older. But this is PTU, so there are going to be a few bugs. For reference, that is the first time I've ever died in Star Citizen from an FPS combat mission, so that's pretty impressive. Something else of note that's in 3.7 is the Banu Defender, an alien ship that I kind of didn't really have my eye on. Now that it's been released and I've had a closer look at it, it is extremely eccentric and very, very detailed. CIG has done a wonderful job on this ship, and I think it's going to have to be added into the collection of architect reviews, because it just has so much to it on that detail level that I can't simply ignore it. Establishing a new set of principles for a completely new type of ship design. It's very organic as compared to everything else we've seen before. The Banu Defender is almost crustacean-like, with a crab-like exterior and crustacean-like bony interior. They've managed to make it not creepy, which you might get really close to doing when you make an organic-style ship. And so, I think they've done a pretty good job, and I really do think it requires an entire video just dedicated to looking at all the details of this ship, because there are many, many fine details that were added into this design. CIG has really done a phenomenal job in this particular case. This is far and away probably the most detailed small ship in the game. As if its exterior and interior design language weren't different enough, it also has a very different looking quantum travel. It's got particle effects and some green glowing thing in front of the ship that is super hypnotic and actually kind of, well, soothing to look at. We also got 2 new Vanguard variants with their own set of base weapons as well as livery, the Sentinel as well as the Harbinger. Harbinger being a more heavy hitter, whereas the Sentinel is an E-War ship. Interestingly, the Harbinger includes a missile turret as well as a torpedo bay, giving it a lot more firepower than the base Warden. 3.7 is also introducing ship rentals, which gives players the ability to rent ships that they don't have for 1, 3, or 30 days. I think that this is an absolutely great addition to the game, and it's going to give people the chance and opportunity to try out ships that they wouldn't otherwise be able to buy, and also to know whether or not the next ship they're focusing on is really for them. I also think it's a great way to step up and earn more money with a little bit of investment. For example, the Prospector can probably pay for itself in the day that you buy it for 41,000 AUEC. Sadly, there are some ships missing from the list, like the 890 Jump and the Caterpillar, 2 ships I'm sure many of you want to try out, but they're not available yet. That doesn't mean that they will never be available, but just that right now, they're not in. Alright, so I probably delayed this for long enough and some of you might be annoyed, but come on, I had to save the best for last. So, in this newest patch, we're also going to be getting a brand new ship called the RSI Mantis, which adds in, very importantly, a new ability called Quantum Interdiction. When its main Quantum Interdiction drive is activated, it will create a bubble around it that entraps passing vehicles, either AI or players. All ships within the vicinity of the ship will be unable to quantum travel away and will have to disable that drive in order to get away. We were treated to this uncommon encounter by one of the CIG devs who decided to just show up on one of my streams and, well, show the ship off. I really like this guerrilla advertisement style of doing things, and I hope they keep this sort of thing up, What I think it does is help us get a little bit closer to the devs on a more human level and creates a tighter-knit community, and I really, really like that. Also, on a more design level, I'm really liking the new direction for RSI, if that's indeed what this is. The streamlined canopy with no struts, the integrated thrusters, the way they've integrated the weapons now into the shell of the ship, the beautiful looking bridge, and the interior too. I mean, I can only see bits and pieces of it, but it looks amazing. It all bodes well, very well in fact, for the new ships to come, such as the Apollo medical ship. But more importantly, at least in my opinion, I hope what it means is that they're going to rework the Connie series, which is in desperate need of both a rebalance and just a revisit in general. It's got a lot of programmatic issues and even functional issues with it. The canopy, for example, has always been a sore spot for much of the community and has become pretty much a meme. I must say, though, it does have a bit of a Star Trek feel to it, and to be honest, I don't really mind it. Now, I know many of you, though, will be more concerned with what it's going to do to gameplay, and I understand that there is a concern that it's going to be used to troll people. Well, I think that's definitely going to be the case. I don't think it's going to be quite as bad as people think it will be. Initially, maybe it's going to be a little unbalanced, but all things are when they're first introduced. CIG is very aware of the issue of trapping other players. They talked about it when they were discussing the jail system that they want to add eventually into the game, and how they are aware that it's going to make people very annoyed, and so they want to give people different outs in order to avoid having to play that little mini-game. So I very much imagine that this is going to be avoidable in some way through understanding how it works and, well, taking some countermeasures against it, such as avoiding it or scanning it down before you actually run into it in quantum travel. Let's also not forget that they do listen to the community most of the time, and so if you guys are loud enough about the issues that it presents once it's actually out and we can see the way it functions, I'm sure they're going to do something about the way it works and balance it to a more reasonable level. For now, we can enjoy the incredibly cool looking VFX that this drive is adding. I really like this gyroscope thing in the center. Now, one last thing, because I know some of you may be curious, they have said that this is not going to be exclusive to the Mantis. This is only going to be a ship that is specifically made for this particular function in the game. You'll be able to buy modules for your own ship, your small ship or large ship in the future, that will enable you to do something very similar. It won't be quite as powerful or effective, but it will be something that you can do to, well, enable your ship to perform a few more roles. I think this is really good, because like the mining that's being introduced in 3.7, it gives you a route to explore profession possibilities without having to go all the way. Previously, we only had, for example, the prospector, and you'd have to spend a lot of money just to find out that you don't like mining. Now, with the mining gun, you can find out that you don't like mining very early on and decide to avoid it. Very much the same thing should be applied to virtually every profession in Star Citizen, and that's exactly what it looks like they're going to do. 3.7 doesn't have the curb appeal that the ArcCorp update did. It's definitely not the most content-heavy patch ever, but I would argue it's one of the best patches ever, and that's because just how polished it is. Now hear me out. They've got some solid features in here that are going to create some gameplay loops, but more importantly, the performance and stability updates here are going to make it much more playable waiting for the next patch. And as a result, I very much suspect that streamers and content creators are going to find it much easier to make content on this game and thus drive further advertisement, free advertisement for Star Citizen and create a bigger community from it. You know, a lot of the stuff that they've added in earlier patches has been great, but it's not really worked because of stability issues. And so if they can pin down some of these problems and fix them, they can make the game a lot more playable for longer periods of time, and I think that's what they've done with 3.7. So the wider patch is going to drop October 10th, as I said earlier, and if you guys have had a chance to try it out already, let me know down in the comment section what you thought so far, and maybe what you thought of about any of the features I've said here. I know I'm missing a few, there's a lot to talk about, and I'll probably have to get to them in another video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitch as well, so you can join me in the next stream, and of course, if you liked the video, if you liked me, and if you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do. And as always, I hope to see you guys next time.